Welcome to Baker Free Library's 2024 Staff Picks. In this video, you will find our staff's favorite reads from 2024. All of the books in this video were published in 2024, and the descriptions we provide are not our own. They are adapted from Amazon or Goodreads. If you would like to reserve any of the titles you see, please visit our website or give us a call at 603-224-7113. Enjoy! The identity comes first. Evie Porter. Once she's given a name and location by her mysterious boss, Mr. Smith, she learns everything there is to know about the town and the people in it. Then the mark, Ryan Sumner. The last piece of the puzzle is the job. Evie isn't privy to Mr. Smith's real identity, but she knows this job isn't like the others. Ryan has gotten under her skin, and she's starting to envision a different sort of life for herself. But Evie can't make any mistakes, especially after what happened last time. This is a tale of murder. Or maybe that's not quite true. At its heart, it's a love story, isn't it? Lana Farrar is a reclusive ex-movie star and one of the most famous women in the world. Every year, she invites her closest friends to escape the English weather and spend Easter on her idyllic private Greek island. I tell you this because you may think you know this story. You probably read about it at the time. It caused a real stir in the tabloids, if you remember. It had all the necessary ingredients for a press sensation: a celebrity, a private island cut off by the wind, and a murder. On a frigid February day, Anchorage detective Kara Kennedy stands by the graves of her husband and son, watching as their caskets are raised from the earth. It feels sacrilegious, but she has no choice. Aaron and Dylan disappeared on a hike a year ago. Their bones eventually found and buried. But shocking clues have emerged that foul play was involved, potentially connecting them to a string of other deaths and disappearances. Aided by police officer Joe Barkowski and other residents of Point Metier, Kara's investigation will lead them on a dangerous path that puts their lives and the lives of everyone around them in mortal jeopardy. In the waning months of World War II, Japan hid vast quantities of gold and other stolen valuables in booby-trapped underground caches all across the Philippines. By 1947, some of that loot was recovered, not by treasure hunters, but by the United States government, which told no one about the find. Instead, these assets were stamped classified, shipped to Europe, and secretly assimilated into something called the Black Eagle Trust. Retired Justice Department operative Cotton Malone is in Switzerland doing a favor for a friend. But what was supposed to be a simple operation turns violent, and Cotton is thrust into a war between the world's oldest bank and the CIA. Iris and Gabriel have just arrived home from a make-or-break holiday, but a shock awaits them. One of their closest friends, Laura, is in their house. The atmosphere quickly becomes tense as she oversteps again and again, sleeping in their bed, wearing Iris's clothes, even rearranging the furniture. Laura has walked out on her husband and their good friend, Pierre, over his confession of an affair and a secret child. Iris and Gabriel want to be supportive of their friends, but as Laura's mood becomes increasingly unpredictable, her presence takes its toll. Soon, secrets from all of their pasts will unravel. Some more dangerous than they could have known. Amy Lynn never expected to find a love like the one she shares with her husband Curtis, a gifted young architect who pulls her toward joy, adventure, and greater self-acceptance. On a sweltering August morning, only a few months shy of the newlyweds' move to Vancouver, 32-year-old Curtis heads out to run a half marathon with Amy's family. It's the last time she sees her husband alive. What follows is a rich and unflinchingly honest portrayal of her life with Curtis, the vortex created by his death, and the ongoing struggle Amy faces as she attempts to understand her own experience in the context of commonly held truths about what the grieving process looks like. Rosie and Chad Lowen are barely making ends meet in New York City when they receive life-changing news. Chad's late uncle has left them his luxury apartment at the historic Windermere in glamorous Murray Hill. At first, the building and its eclectic tenants couldn't feel more welcoming, but as the Lowens settle into their new home, Rosie starts to suspect that there's more to the Windermere than meets the eye. Why is the doorman ever present? Why are there cameras everywhere? And why have so many gruesome crimes occurred there throughout the years? When one of the neighbors turns up dead, Rosie must get to the truth about the Windermere before she too falls under its dangerous spell. Prince Oak is paying for his betrayal. Imprisoned in the icy north and bound to the will of a monstrous new queen, he must rely on charm and calculation to survive. With High King Cardan and High Queen Jude willing to use any means necessary to retrieve their stolen heir, Oak will have to decide whether to attempt regaining the trust of the girl he's always loved or to remain loyal to Elfhame and hand over the means to end her reign, even if it means ending Ren too. With a new war looming on the horizon and treachery lurking in every corner, neither Oak's guile nor his wit will be enough to keep everyone he loves alive. It's just a question of whom he will doom. When Sally kills her husband with a cast iron skillet, she's more fearful of losing her kids than of disposing of a fresh corpse. That just wouldn't be fair, not after 20 years of marriage to a truly terrible man. But Sally isn't the only woman in town reaching the brink. Soon Sally finds herself leading an extremely unusual self-help group, and among them are 4 bodies to hide. Can they all figure out the perfect way to bury their husbands and get away with it? Together fueled by righteous anger but tempered by a moral core, the 4 women must help each other work out a plan to get rid of their husbands for good. This journey into the world of the octopus will reveal how the large and capable brain of these creatures occupies their whole body, not just their heads, and they can actually adjust their genetic makeup to respond to the demands of the environment. It will allow readers to watch them change shape and color in order to camouflage themselves more effectively than any other species, and it will divulge how octopus mothers give their all in order to bring forth a new generation. With this offering, acclaimed author Cy Montgomery returns to the species she knows and loves, offering current and compassionate stories about the scientists on the front lines of octopus research and conservation. 5 contestants have been chosen to compete for $10 million on the game show One Lucky Winner. The catch? None of them knows what or who to expect, and it will be live-streamed all over the world. Completely secluded in an estate in Northern California with strict instructions not to leave the property and 0 contact with the outside world, the competitors start to feel a little too isolated. When long-kept secrets begin to rise to the surface, the contestants realize that this is no longer just a reality show. Someone is out for blood, and the game can't end until the world knows who the contestants really are. On an ordinary Monday morning, Ariel Cafferty's phone buzzes with a disturbing text message. "Something's happened, I need to see you, meet me under the candelabra tree ASAP." The words would be jarring from anyone, but the sender is the only man she ever loved, and it's been several years since she learned he died. Seeing Drew's name pop up is heart-stopping. Ariel's gut says it can't be real, but she goes to the tree anyway. She has to. Nobody shows, but the text upends everything she thought she knew about the day he left. The more questions she asks, the more sinister the answers get. Only 2 things are clear. Everything she was told 5 years ago is wrong, and someone is still lying to her. Anna Green thought she was marrying Liam West Weston for access to subsidized family housing while at UCLA. She also thought she'd signed divorce papers when the graduation caps were tossed. 3 years later, Anna is a starving artist living paycheck to paycheck while West is a Stanford professor. He may be one of 4 heirs to the Weston Foods conglomerate, but he has little interest in working for the Heartless Corporation. However, he is interested in his $100 million inheritance. There's just one catch. Due to an antiquated clause in his grandfather's will, Liam won't see a penny until he's been happily married for 5 years. He has no choice but to turn to the one person he's afraid to introduce to his parents, his not-so-ex-wife. Patrick O'Hara is back. It's been 5 years since his summer as his niece Maisie and nephew Grant's caretaker after their mother's passing. The kids are back in Connecticut with their dad, and Patrick has relocated to New York to remain close by and relaunch his dormant acting career. After the run of his second successful sitcom comes to a close, Patrick feels on top of the world, professionally. But some things have had to take a back seat. Looking down both barrels at 50, Patrick is single again after breaking things off with Emery. But at least he has a family to lean on, until that family needs to again lean on him. Michael is coming undone. Adrift after his wife's departure, he has begun taking himself on long, solitary walks across the English countryside. Becoming ever more reclusive, he'll do anything to avoid his empty house. Marnie, on the other hand, is stuck. Hiding alone in her London flat, she avoids old friends and any reminders of her rotten, selfish ex-husband. Curled up with a good book, she's battling the long afternoons of a life that feels like it's passing her by. When a persistent mutual friend and some very unpredictable weather conspire to toss Michael and Marnie together on the most epic of 10-day hikes, neither of them can think of anything worse. Until, of course, they discover exactly what they've been looking for. A history-making, once-in-a-century volcanic eruption is about to destroy the big island of Hawaii. But a decades-old military secret could turn the volcano into something even more terrifying. Now it's up to a handful of brave individuals to save the island, and the entire world. Michael Crichton had a passion project he'd been pursuing for years, ahead of his untimely passing in 2008. Knowing how special it was, his wife Sherry Crichton held back his notes and the partial manuscript until she found the right author to complete it, James Patterson. Eruption brings the pace of Patterson to the concept of Crichton, the most anticipated mega-thriller in years. Martha Ratliff conceded long ago that she'd likely spend her life alone. She was fine with it, happy with her solo existence, stimulated by her work as a librarian in Maine, but then she met Alan, a charming and sweet-natured salesman whose job took him on the road for half the year. When he asked her to marry him, she said yes, even though he still felt a little bit like a stranger. A year in, and the marriage was good, except for that strange blood streak on the back of one of his shirts he'd worn to a conference in Denver. Her curiosity turning to suspicion, Martha investigates the cities Alan visited over the past year and uncovers a disturbing pattern: 5 unsolved cases of murdered women. It's the opening night of The Manor, the newest and hottest luxury resort, and no expense, small or large, has been spared. The infinity pool sparkles, the Manor Mule cocktail is being poured with a heavy hand, everyone is wearing linen. But under the burning midsummer sun, darkness stirs. Old friends and enemies circulate among the guests. Just outside the Manor's immaculately kept grounds, an ancient forest bristles with secrets. And it's not too long before the local police are called. Turns out the past has crashed the party, with deadly results. For the past 2 decades, Rocky has looked forward to her family's yearly escape to Cape Cod. Their humble beach town rental has been the site of sweet memories, sunny days, great meals, and messes of all kinds, emotional, marital, and thanks to the cottage's ancient plumbing, septic too. This year's vacation, with Rocky sandwiched between her half-grown kids and fully aging parents, promises to be just as delightful as summers past, except perhaps for Rocky's hormonal bouts of rage and melancholy. Her body is changing and her life is too. And then a chain of events sends Rocky into the past, reliving both the tenderness and sorrow of a handful of long-ago summers. As a young queer couple who flip houses, Charlie and Eve can't believe the killer deal they've just gotten on an old house in a picturesque neighborhood. As they're working in the house one day, there's a knock on the door. A man stands there with his family, claiming to have lived there years before and asking if it would be all right if he showed his kids around. People pleaser to a fault, Eve lets them in. As soon as the strangers enter their home, inexplicable things start happening, including the family's youngest child going missing and a ghostly presence materializing in the basement. Even more weird, the family can't seem to take the hint that their visit should be over. And when Charlie suddenly vanishes, Eve slowly loses her grip on reality. Something is terribly wrong with the house, or is Eve just imagining things? Recently ghosted and sick of watching her friends fade into the suburbs, 30-something Hannah finds community in a true crime forum that's on a mission to solve the murders of 4 women in Atlanta. After William, a handsome lawyer, is arrested for the killings, Hannah begins writing him letters. It's the perfect outlet for her pent-up frustration and rage. The exercise empowers her, and even feels healthy at first, until William writes back. Hannah's interest in the case goes from curiosity to obsession, leaving space for nothing else as her life implodes around her. When a 5th woman is discovered murdered, the jury has no choice but to find William not guilty, and Hannah is the first person he calls upon his release. To 8-year-old Bella, her family is her world. There's Mommy, Daddo, and Grandma Ruth. But there is also Other Mommy, a malevolent entity who asks her every day, "Can I go inside your heart?" When horrifying incidents around the house signal that Other Mommy is growing tired of asking Bella the same question over and over, Bella understands that unless she says yes, her family will soon pay. Other Mommy is getting restless, stronger, and bolder. Only the bonds of family can keep Bella safe, but other incidents show cracks in her parents' marriage. The safety Bella relies on is about to unravel, but Other Mommy needs an answer. After surviving the purging trials, ordinary-born Peyton Gray has killed the king and kickstarted a resistance throughout the land. Now she's running from the one person she had wanted to run to. Kai Azer is now Ilya's enforcer, loyal to his brother Kit, the new king. He has vowed to find Payton and bring her to justice. Across the deadly scorches and deep into the hostile city of Dor, Kai pursues the one person he wishes he didn't have to. But in a city without elites, the balance between the hunter and hunted shifts, and the battle between duty and desire is deadly. It's a beautiful day in Newport, Rhode Island, when Phoebe Stone arrives at the Grand Cornwall Inn wearing a green dress and gold heels, not a bag in sight, alone. She's immediately mistaken by everyone in the lobby for one of the wedding people, but she's actually the only guest at the Cornwall who isn't here for the big event. Phoebe is here because she's dreamed of coming for years. She hoped to shuck oysters and take sunset sails with her husband, only now she's here without him, at rock bottom, and determined to have one last decadent splurge on herself. Meanwhile, the bride has accounted for every detail and every possible disaster the weekend might yield, except for, well, Phoebe and Phoebe's plan, which makes it that much more surprising when the two women can't stop confiding in each other. The teenagers get their kicks telling ghost stories in the old graveyard. The parents trust their kids will arrive home safe from school. Everyone knows everyone. Curtains rarely twitch. Front doors are left unlocked. But Diana Brewer isn't lying safely in her bed where she belongs. Instead, she lies in a hayfield, circled by vultures, discovered by a local farmer. How quickly a girl becomes a ghost. How quickly a town of friendly, familiar faces becomes a town of suspects, a place of fear and paranoia. Someone in Fairhill did this. Everyone wants answers. Dara Wilcox, in New York for a weekend, meets Austin Clarke at an art gallery. If love at first sight can happen, it happens to them. These two vivid, ambitious people are on different courses. He's British, working temporarily in New York. She's from North Carolina, set on law school. They don't care. They will make their lives together happen. At their April engagement party at Dara's family home, her mother Lee sets a beautiful table and the family and close friends gather to celebrate. Days later, Austin hears unsettling news from London that wrecks their plans. Dara abruptly cancels the wedding. While Dara escapes to California and Indigo Island, South Carolina, Austin back in London faces a major tragedy. But it's Lee, Dara's mother, whose impulsive visit to London alters their fate. The International Nuclear Event Scale tracks nuclear disasters. It has 7 levels. Level 7 is a major accident, with only 2 on record, Fukushima and Chernobyl. There has never been a level 8, until now. In this heart-stopping thriller, ordinary people, power plant employees, firefighters, teachers, families, neighbors, and friends, are thrust into an extraordinary situation as they face the ultimate test of their lives. It will take the combined courage, ingenuity, and determination of a brave few to save not only their community and loved ones, but the fate of humanity at large. Halle Barrett's life has imploded after she's dumped by her hotshot ex, who also happens to be her coworker and the star of the online series she was producing. Without a new show to present for the company competition, she'll be out of a job. But inspiration can come from the strangest places, like the most handsome guy she's ever seen passionately discussing Bigfoot on a late-night docuseries. Hayden Hargrove made a name for himself as a cryptid expert on his hit podcast, and as Hayden and Halle investigate the unknown, they unearth feelings for each other that shake their beliefs to the core. In their search for Mothman, aliens, and the truth, the most elusive discovery might just be learning to love again. Blythe Hawthorne has never let anyone tell her what to do. Not society, not her overprotective father, and certainly not the man she's bound herself to, no matter how rude and insufferable he is. In fact, she's determined to be a thorn in his side for the rest of her days, even as he ensures that her life in his palace is anything but a fairy tale. But as Blythe discovers a new side of herself linked to his past, she'll have to decide if she's willing to let an unexpected spark ignite, and to discover the truth about who she really is. When retired math teacher Grace Winters is left a rundown house on a Mediterranean island by a long-lost friend, curiosity gets the better of her. She arrives in Ibiza with a one-way ticket, no guidebook, and no plan. Among the rugged hills and golden beaches of the island, Grace searches for answers about her friend's life and how it ended. What she uncovers is stranger than she could have dreamed. But to dive into this impossible truth, Grace must first come to terms with her past. Filled with wonder and wild adventure, this is a story of hope and the life-changing power of a new beginning. Dragonfire no longer blisters the skies over Pantera, but inside the lavish palace, life is still perilous, especially for Tamsin. Raised in the glittering court alongside the princesses, it's her duty to be punished for their misdeeds. Treated as part of the royal family, but also as the lowliest servant, Tamsin fits nowhere. Her only friend is Stig, captain of the guard, though sometimes she thinks he wants more than friendship. When Fel, the beast of the borderlands, descends on her home, Tamsin's world becomes even more dangerous. To save the pampered princesses from a fate worse than death, she is commanded to don a veil and marry the brutal warrior. She agrees to the deception even though it means leaving Stig and the only life she's ever known behind. Alfred Smedel is not your average Hitchcock fan. He is the founder, owner, and manager of the Hitchcock Hotel, a sprawling Victorian house in the White Mountains dedicated to the master of suspense. There, Alfred offers his guests round-the-clock film screenings, movie props and memorabilia in every room, plus an aviary with 50 crows. To celebrate the hotel's first anniversary, he invites his former best friends from his college film club for a reunion. He hasn't spoken to any of them in 16 years, not after what happened. But who better than them to appreciate Alfred's creation, and to help him finish it? After all, no Hitchcock set is complete without a body. Patrick Hargrave and Quinn Muller have been married for less than a year, but their passionate romance is cracking under the pressures of domestic life and a cumbersome mortgage. That's until Christmas Eve, when Patrick wakes Quinn up with, "I think I've killed a man." Quinn realizes the burglar Patrick knocked out is none other than Mr. Claus himself. Instructed by a harried elf to don the red suit and take the reins of the reindeer-guided sleigh up on the roof, Quinn and Patrick work together to save Christmas. But as the sun rises on Christmas morning, the sleigh brings them back to the North Pole instead of New Jersey, and they're in for a massive shock. The couple must assume the role of Santa Claus and the first ever Merriest Mister, or Christmas will be canceled. Permanently. Julie Parker's kids are her greatest gift. Still, she's not exactly heartbroken when they ask to skip a big Christmas. Her son Nick is taking a belated honeymoon with his bride Blair, while her daughter Dana will purge every reminder of the guy who dumped her. Again. Julie feels practically giddy for one-on-one holiday time with Heath, the much younger man she's secretly dating. But her plans go from cozy to chaotic when Nick and Dana plead for Christmas at the family cabin in memory of their late father, Julie's ex. She can't refuse, even though she dreads their reactions to her new man when they realize she's been hiding him for months. Welcome to Eris, an island with only one house, one inhabitant, one way out. Unreachable from the Scottish mainland for 12 hours each day. Once home to Vanessa, a famous artist whose notoriously unfaithful husband disappeared 20 years ago. Now home to Grace, a solitary creature of the tides, content in her own isolation. But when a shocking discovery is made in an art gallery far away in London, a visitor comes calling, and the secrets of Eris threaten to emerge. Frank Zatowski is shocked when his daughter Maggie calls him for the first time in 3 years. He was convinced that their estrangement would become permanent. He's even more surprised when she invites him to her upcoming wedding in New Hampshire. Frank is ecstatic and determined to finally make things right. He arrives to find that the wedding is at a private estate, very secluded, very luxurious, and very much out of his league. It seems that Maggie has failed to mention that she's marrying Aidan Gardner, the son of a famous tech billionaire. He finds that the locals are disturbingly hostile to the Gardners, and Frank needs to know more about this family his daughter is marrying into. But if he pushes too hard, he could lose Maggie forever. Addressing the fundamental questions about how to live, Meditations for Mortals offers a powerful new way to take action on what counts, a guiding philosophy of life Oliver Burkeman calls imperfectionism. It helps us tackle challenges as they crop up in our daily lives, our finite time, the lure of distraction, the impossibility of doing anything perfectly. Reflecting on quotations drawn from philosophy, religion, literature, psychology, and self-help, Burkeman explores a combination of practical tools and daily shifts in perspective. The result is a life-enhancing and surprising challenge to much familiar advice, and a profound yet entertaining crash course in living more fully. The world is more astonishing, more miraculous, and more wonderful than our wildest imaginings. In this brilliant and passionately persuasive book, Katherine Rundell takes us on a globe-spanning tour of the world's most awe-inspiring animals currently facing extinction. Each of these extraordinary animals is endangered or holds a subspecies that is endangered. This urgent, inspiring book of essays dedicated to 23 unusual and underappreciated creatures is a clarion call insisting that we look at the world around us with new eyes. to see the magic of the animals we live among, their unknown histories and capabilities, and above all, how lucky we are to tread the same ground as such vanishing treasures. As Indigenous scientist and author of Braiding Sweetgrass, Robin Wall Kimmerer harvests serviceberries alongside the birds. She considers the ethic of reciprocity that lies at the heart of the gift economy. How, she asks, can we learn from Indigenous wisdom and the plant world to reimagine what we value most? The serviceberry's relationship with the natural world is an embodiment of reciprocity, interconnectedness, and gratitude. The serviceberry is an antidote to the broken relationships and misguided goals of our times, and a reminder that hoarding won't save us. All flourishing is mutual.